Like the left is not about ideas. Ideas are not the driving force. Sure, people can say, oh yeah, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, I'm a blah, 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 but very little of that actually matters. Instead, what sort of paints a target on your back is usually just your willingness to go against consensus. Like, even if you go against consensus and people sort of react to that, and you can prove that you were in the right, like your argument had merit, it was correct or whatever. Like, even if Marx himself rose from the grave and said, oh, Malcolm actually, like, I agree with him on this, like, you should chill out. Like, yeah, sure, people would be really courteous while Marx walked the earth, but when he returned to heaven or hell or wherever he rests now, everyone would just turn on you in a flash, because the sin here wasn't being incorrect. The sin was essentially like you demonstrating a sort of faulty or like a disloyalty, essentially, by stepping outside of the circle of accepted like opinion.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking one thing that is a real tell is how a lot of people who came into the left through Bernie Sanders really it's a real tell that they've just kind of floated around from being socialist to being anarchist, and you can kind of be any of those things, but the one thing that you absolutely must be is on board with being a citizen of the world, being against nationalism, and being a kind of socially destructive cultural libertarian, basically. That's the only thing you need to have to be part of this broad coalition. You can have a whole range of economic views that just are contradictory, that are all over the place, that are very moderate, that are very extreme. It's really just you have to be on board with that what would you call it, a cultural geopolitical kind of project.
Yeah.
But in terms of how they conceive of themselves, well, obviously the people who are out rioting and stuff are mostly anarchists, I mean, I would say, or else some mostly self-aware kind of anarchists, insurrectionists of different types, and that's how they see themselves. And so every fake economic project is really about causing the possibility for that. So even, for example, when their only interest in trade unions, for example, is to get them to do something disruptive, so that it will open up like a insurrectionary potential. A funny thing you often see about Michael Lind, who I really like, is one of the reasons that they dislike him so much is that he's always presenting these very successful models of like collective bargaining and kind of industrial peace, So he often, I think, like the German model is one that he often references. That has absolutely no value for them.
Yeah.
Like if you could say to them, but it raised everyone's wages, they would. I don't think they would be able to compute that. But what they would be, on some level, kind of understanding is like, yeah, but it didn't cause the possibility for insurrection for us.
Yeah.
So that's no good. I don't care if it raises people's wages. I don't care if somebody's able to have a home or something like that. As a result, that's not the project. If you think that's the project, you're a total fool. So yeah, that's what they think they're doing. Now, as for the people in the kind of establishment or with those ambitions, I think, kind of as Malcolm alluded to, they regard the insurrectionists, kind of anarchist people on the street, as just a kind of a temporary necessity to terrorize people, so that they can then swoop in and say, we're the true kind of law and order party, right? Because we will end the madness of the Trump era. This is the new line I noticed, by the way.
Yeah.
The only way to end the culture war and the kind of like the exhausting battle of the last few years is to get the establishment Dems back into power. And that's what like people, people who probably identified as like socialists or like radical leftists are now saying. So they're essentially just saying vote for Biden. And so how can you possibly deny their utility as a temporary bullying force that just gets the establishment back into power?
I think it's useful to add to this that, well, I mean, the connection between these sort of middle class anarchists and the like the DC insiders and so on, like that connection won't be temporary, because a lot of the time these like weathermen or whatever are just their sons and daughters having their own like period of being super radical and so on. Like if you look at the Social Democrats here in Sweden, at like the first sort of generation had a lot of so my friend, who's like an old sort of political part of a political family of nobility, essentially, like the first social democrat in that family, like his father worked in some like machine shop at the turn of the century or whatever, and lost his arm or something, and so the son had to help him, beg for scraps to have money to eat, because I mean there was no OSHA at that time, let's just say. And but during the 70s, like all of these sort of old political activists are more or less gone. What you have instead is like the sons of daughters of this new nobility, who just do all of this like really open sort of insurrectionist song and dance, where we have to kill all the bureaucrats to sort of give birth to the true socialist revolution. Like a lot of these people were just Maoists, or some other like really crazy denomination, like student politics at that time. It was just insane. But like after a period of 10 years, all of these people just entered politics, and everything was forgiven. And so this is these people, like not the sort of gangsters and sort of like professional looters or whatever, but the white red guards throwing over tables at restaurants because people are eating and not demonstrating against Trump. Like those people, they're going through this phase as their own sort of cursus honorium in order to then get a job at an NGO or whatever. And a lot of them are like openly angling for it. But on the other hand, the sort of self-conception of the left is that, oh no, we're totally the sort of plunky underdogs. We're against all of these sort of Democrats. My mom is a Democrat lib, but when the revolution comes, I'll personally execute her by shooting her in the head or whatever, because she's a boog. Like people have to have these sort of ideas, but it's kind of like in Catholicism, where like, because Catholicism is an institution that survived for a very long time, it has this sort of like almost genetic instinct on how to preserve itself. So to deal with like the inevitable loss of faith, you have all of these rituals and like institutional mechanisms that sort of preempt the loss of faith in the project or in the scripture, and sort of transform that into a confirmation of the innate like truth value of Catholicism, essentially. So as an institution, it's sort of gotten past that problem that a lot of like leftist cults have, where everyone's a Trotskyite for a couple of years and then everyone realizes that no, this isn't going anywhere. So what I want to say with this is actually that to understand the left like rhetoric, you kind of have to understand the function it serves. And a lot of this sort of, no, we're the true rebels, no, we hate the liberals, and so on. Like, this is just, all of this is sort of built to preempt the moment where these people just join Center for American Progress or whatever.
Yeah.